Good morning and welcome into the Farzy Show here at the Steven Singer Studios. My name is Marc Farzy. Thanks for joining me this fine Friday morning. So much to get to on today's program today. Today's guest is a guy I've been waiting to talk to for a while. I have followed him a lot on Twitter. I think he does a great job covering the 76ers for CBSSports.com. Michael KB, as you know him on Twitter, and as you know him from CBSSports.com, covers all things NBA. In particular, all things 76ers. So we'll get into a good conversation with him when it comes to the 10-9-8 76ers and what they have to do going forward in this series against the Atlanta Hawks. Here's the interesting thing that I'll let you know right out of the gate. I know some people, such as myself, might have been a little maybe overconfident in this series, and I still think the Sixers they have a great chance of still winning in 5 games, obviously. However, his official prediction was that the Sixers would win this series against the Atlanta Hawks in 6 games. Still very likely that happens as well. So we will get all his takes when it comes to the 76ers coming up in just a second. We got some Phillies conversation to get to. The Braves come to town, and wouldn't you know it, by golly, the Phillies take care of business and they win 2 out of 3 against the Atlanta Braves, and they're now in second place, a game ahead of Atlanta, 3.5 games behind the New York Metropolitans. And you got to be feeling good about yourself anytime you take 2 of 3 from the Atlanta Braves, especially in 2 games where you get a walk-off victory against them. Phillies thought they had it in the bag, per se. They only had a 1-run lead when they handed the ball to Hector Neris in the 9th inning, and unfortunately, Neris wasn't able to close it out. They go into the extra frames, and they're able to walk it off thanks to Gene Segura with a nice little walk-off. It would have been a double, probably. Maybe a triple with the way it bounced off the wall. Probably a double to the left center field wall. So that was great. It was really a phenomenal series, and we'll get to Zach Wheeler. Oh, my goodness gracious. The season Zach Wheeler is having. And I got a little fun tie-in for you in our big bet segment, by the way, about Zach Wheeler we can have some fun with. But I'm just blown away by what this guy has done. 4 of his last 5 starts, he's gotten double digits in strikeouts. He's got every single pitch working for him. We're going to let you hear 2 things from Joe Girardi. One is going to come up in a second here, and it has to do with how he describes Zach Wheeler's success and why he is having this success. The other is the second tribute to the Philadelphia fan base that we got this week. The first one was from Joel Embiid about how, when fans boo you, it's just about motivation and trying to, make sure you get the best out of you and all that, make sure they get the best out of you. Joe Girardi must have heard Joel Embiid's speech after the game, after game 2, because it sounded very similar. The message was very similar. So we might have a little back-to-back Joe Girardi and Joel Embiid for you when it comes to their homage to the Philadelphia fan base. So we'll get to that. But we're going to start it off, ladies and gentlemen, with what's going on with those 76ers right now. And I love this story that came out yesterday during Sixers practice when reserve guard, bench player George Hill addressed the media. Doc Rivers spoke about the bench after halftime when he addressed the media after the game. And he said, after game 2, and he said, we challenged the bench at halftime. And we said, you guys need to step up. They're giving us the spacing. We need to take advantage of this. We need to start scoring the basketball because guess what they're doing? They're scoring the basketball. So we got to keep up with them. And when you listen to Doc Rivers say it in the post-game press conference, you're like, okay, Doc, all right, that sounds like a good idea to tell your bench they need to score. Way to go. And then the way George Hill described it was a little bit different. It wasn't exactly Doc Rivers going to the bench and be like, hey, guys, hey, sport, hey, fella, how you doing? Here's what we'd really like to see from you today. We'd like to see you score the basketball. Please and thank you with a cherry on top. Apparently, it was more in your face. Apparently, it was more high school Harry type of attitude than it was anything else. And every once in a while, you got to do that. And there's been coaches, and it's funny, the first coach I think of now, because in terms of recency, is Brett Brown. Because if you remember 2 years ago in the playoffs against the Brooklyn Nets, the Sixers came out and they were awful. They were awful in the early goings of that series. Brett Brown went into halftime with him and basically read on the riot act, and they came out and they took control of that series from that point on. And Brett Brown said after the game, You only have so many bullets as a head coach. You only have so many bullets you can fire. Because the minute you start yelling and screaming about everything, you become the coach who cried wolf, and people start ignoring you. Well, you know what? Doc Rivers, guess what? He's a pretty damn good He's a pretty damn good coach. So he goes out there into the locker room and he says, guys, and he fires the bullets. And they come out in the second half, and the bench scored 26 of 30 points for you at one stretch. 26 of the 26 of the 30 points you scored over about a 6-7 minute span. The bench was the team that was the unit that was keeping you in that ball game. So yeah, Doc Rivers, I think he chose his bullets wisely and fired them at the people he needed to fire them at in order to light a fire under them to get him going in that second half. And I love that George Hill came out and not only told the story to the media, but also said that that's what he wants. That's what he wanted from a coach. If a coach sees you're not doing well, a player wants to be held accountable. And I think that is exactly what Doc Rivers was aiming to do. It's exactly what he accomplished. And most importantly, he knew who he could get away with saying stuff like that to. He knew he could get away with being in somebody's face, telling them, hey, I need more from you. And not a polite pull-aside conversation, but, hey, I got like 30 seconds to talk to you at halftime here. I know everyone's got a bunch of things going on. I need to – you guys need to get this going right now, like urgency, right? That is exactly what you want to hear from a head coach. And from a player that's not going to take that as an offense, as a player that's going to only take that as honesty, you love to see it. You love to hear about it, that's for sure. So the Sixers now, they go into Atlanta tonight. Game day, ladies and gentlemen. 7:30 tip-off against these Atlanta Hawks, and I could not be more excited, first and foremost, for this game. Now, I'll be even more excited if I get a lot of the same stuff that I saw in the early goings of Game 2. And as I said after Game 1, and I said again after Game 2, the second half of both games is what I think the rest of this series will look like. I don't think you're going to have these huge outbursts of offense right away in the series from one team or the other. I think you're going to have some pretty hard-fought battles throughout. And it was funny. I'm watching the game last night between the Clippers and the Jazz, and I'm watching Donovan Mitchell go out there and just knock down three after three after three. 27 first-half points for Donovan Mitchell last night. And even though in the first half it seemed like the Jazz were very much in control of that game, and they were, it felt like every time I looked down at the score, I expected the Jazz to be up 10 points. I expected the Jazz to be up 15 points. And it wasn't. It was a 5-point lead. It was a 6-point lead. It was maybe a 7-point lead throughout the majority of that first half. But that's more of what I expect. I expect the Hawks, with the shooters that they have, to make you feel like you're down early, right? Make you feel like you're down big early like you were in Game 1. But when you really look at the score, it's not going to look like that at all. It's going to feel like that because they're going to be knocking down every shot, and you're going to be playing an inside game with Joel Embiid. It's going to feel like that, but it's not going to be like that. I would expect the series to be more similar to that than anything else going forward. So when I watch Joel Embiid, that's where it starts tonight. I expect the Sixers on the road to have Joel Embiid even more involved than he usually is, and the offense will obviously run through him. But I'm expecting Joel Embiid to be the guy that's going to control the pace of play. Ben Simmons will facilitate, and he'll do his thing. But every single play, I think, is going to be run through Joel Embiid throughout at least the first half of this game. Because if you're on the road in Atlanta and you're seeing them put up shots and you're seeing them knock down shots, and anything close to the rate they were knocking them down like they did at 70% in the first quarter of Game 1, and now you're on the road in their building, yeah, that's wildfire. So every time something happens down one end, you got to make sure you're going down the other with Joel Embiid to slow down the pace of play. Put him in the post. Joe, look, I'm not the person that says Joel Embiid needs to be out on the perimeter all the time or can't go out on the perimeter and needs to be down low all the time, because I understand the modern version of basketball centers, not every center is going to do that. And Joel Embiid certainly has proven that he doesn't have to do that, nor should he do that, because he's pretty damn good from the outside. So when you are able to control the clock with him down low, you're not allowing the other team to go on runs. You're not allowing the crowd into the ball game. You can take them out of it early with Joel Embiid starting things out well. And I'm not talking about a back-to-the-basket post-up every time with Joel Embiid. I'm talking about just getting the ball down low to him and letting him work his magic, whether that's that little fadeaway jumper from the baseline, whether that's a little work inside to try to get fouled and go to the line. All that All that is what you need to see from Joel Embiid tonight, especially early, because Atlanta fans are going to be excited. They're going to be amped up. They're going to be pumped. Trae Young's going to hit some big shots on his home court. I think we all know that. It's just a matter of how much you're going to be able to control the bleeding when it starts in Atlanta. If they're able to do that, then, like I said, the rest of this game, at least, will play out the way I think it'll play out, which will be a hard-fought game, close throughout. And the Sixers come out on top. Last I checked, DraftKings had the Sixers at -1, as a matter of fact, going into Atlanta. So I already took the action. I picked the Sixers on DraftKings, so I recommend you do too. Have a little confidence, right? Do appreciate the people that reached out to the show. I want to get this out of the way before we hear from Joe Girardi. So it's kind of flattering in a way, but I hope nobody got duped by this. We have had on this show now 2 separate, I don't even want to call them burner accounts, because I think to be a burner account, it has to be you running it, and you don't want people to know it's you, right? 2 fraud accounts. One has Farzy Show with 2 Z's. As you can see, there's just one. And then the other, I think, was Farzy Show with 2 W's. And as you can see, there's just 1 W in show. And, it's one thing if you're, trying to be funny and you're trying to, have an account, whatever, and I'm making fun of Farzetta's show. That's whatever. I could take that. But it's not that. It's literally somebody trying to get your credit card. So if you see our account and you think it's a little weird, and then they ask for you to DM them, or they ask for your credit card information, kindly report that ass to the social media police, whatever, and hopefully we can get that taken down so nobody is maybe caught off guard and go, oh, I want a jersey, whatever. I do like the people on social media yesterday that did hit me up, and they were like, oh, wait, you mean that Dom Brown jersey isn't coming to my house? And I'm like, wait, it was a Dom Brown jersey? I think we know who hacked our account, or at least made the fake accounts. The Dom Brown. What are you doing these days, Dom Brown? Actually, you know what? Last I checked, now that I think about it, and I was thinking about this yesterday, but now that I think about it right now, it just came to me. Wasn't he playing baseball? He was playing baseball in like the Perkiomen League or something crazy like that. I know he was an instructor somewhere. I know he was playing for the Albuquerque Isotopes, Colorado Isotopes. I don't know. There's some team of the Isotopes that I believe is for the Colorado Rockies, and I think that's where Dom Brown was last playing pro ball. I could be wrong. Anyway, I digress. So go Sixers. Now, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I wanted to make sure people that are at least up right now, listening to the show, watching the show live, people in the comments, what's up? That you at least knew that I wanted to address that. I addressed it on social media yesterday, but I'm trying to take care of everybody. All right? Try to take care of everybody is the bottom line. Real quick, before we jump back to the Sixers and talk to Michael KB of CBSSports.com, I do want to get back to the Phillies real quick because I want you to hear this little soundbite from Joe Girardi on Zach Wheeler, who has just been masterful, absolutely masterful. And yesterday was another example of that. And what you saw from Zach Wheeler yesterday was 8 innings, 4 hits that he allowed through 8 innings of work, 12 strikeouts, 105 pitches. His ERA now goes down to 2.29. All right, with the performance that he had yesterday. 8 scoreless, 4 hit innings of 12 strikeout baseball. That's how good he was. And as I said, the 4th time, three of his last 4 starts, he's had double digits in strikeouts. Here is Joe Girardi on what has worked for Zach Wheeler this season so far.
Wheeler pitched fantastic, right?
He sure did.
I mean, he's a big reason that we had a chance, obviously to win that game. And again, this is a very good lineup that hits the ball out of the ballpark, and he was great today. I think it's the use of his slider. Obviously he's always had a dominant fastball, and he has the 4 and the 2 seam, but he's used his slider much more effectively, and he's used his curveball more effectively. And I think it gets him off that one speed.
4 of his last 5 starts, Zach Wheeler has had double digits in strikeouts. He's been awesome. He has outshone, and he has been doing it all season long. He has outshined Aaron Nola. And Aaron Nola, I'm just getting sick of reading. He didn't have his best stuff, but he battled. It's like that's what your fourth starter is supposed to do. That's not exactly what your third starter. That's not what your supposedly number one guy is doing. The number one guy, I mean, it's undisputed at this point so far this year. It's been Zach Wheeler. And maybe Aaron Nola will have a little bit of that old Zach Wheeler in him in the second half of the season. When the Phillies got Zach Wheeler, remember that it was like, oh, he's the second half pitcher. He really comes alive in August, right? Maybe that's what happens with Aaron Nola this time around. Maybe that's what he'll do. Maybe after the All-Star break, he'll get his you-know-what together and start pitching like the guy I think most of us know he can pitch like. So let's hope that is the case. I do want to tell you about my friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Oh, man, let me tell you. Got an anniversary. Going to be popping over there to Steven Singer, see my friend. Buy the missus something nice, right? Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia. IHateStevenSinger.com. Here's what you do. Go to the appointment scheduler at IHateStevenSinger.com. Make yourself an appointment. You go down there. They open the door, make you feel like a king. You walk in. You're looking around. The place is beautiful. The place is pristine. And then a real jewelry expert walks you through everything. I got a friend of mine going down there next week, as a matter of fact, to look at engagement rings with Steven Singer. So that's great. And they know that they go in there. There's no haggle. There's no pressure. There's nothing like that. It's just the perfect price every single time. I know a lot of guys that are about to get engaged. They get a lot of excuses. I can't do that right now. It's too difficult. It's too expensive, whatever it might be. Steven's got you. All right? Steven's got you. That's what I'm telling you. You go to the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia, IHateStevenSinger.com. Look at all the inventory. Have a real jewelry expert walking through everything and know that every single day you're getting the perfect price. You don't got to scan the paper, right? I'm looking for the deal of the century, right? Every single day at Steven Singer, it's the perfect price. One place, one price, the perfect price every day. The other corner of 8th and Walnut or at IHateStevenSinger.com. Sixers. Oh, here's what I got coming up after this. I want to let you hear from Joe Girardi when it comes to his homage to the fan base yesterday and what he had to say about how great this fan base is and what they mean when they boo. I think it's a great question. I think you can write a book on fans booing. All right? I think you absolutely could write a book on fans booing players and other teams. And what are they really saying? What are you really saying? What do you mean by that? So we'll have some fun with that coming up in just a second. And we'll also get a little bit more into the 76ers and all they have going on tonight in Atlanta. But without further ado, please welcome into the show, first time ever, Michael KB is joining us. And here he is on the Zatos Investments guest line. The Zatos Investments guest line from CBSSports.com. You might know him as Michael KB. I tend to know him a little bit as Michael Kasky-Blomain. Did I get it right?
Boom. Got it.
Dude, on fire. Start out.
Two for two.
You can, of course, follow him on Twitter as Michael KB. You do great work for CBSSports.com as an NBA writer. I've followed your career for a while now. Really enjoy your stuff, especially on the 76ers. They find themselves going into this Atlanta Hawks series, after taking care of business against the Wizards, and now they're going into Atlanta with the series tied at 1 game apiece. So just right out of the gate, where are the Sixers right now as far as your expectations go? Splitting right now with the Hawks. Did you expect that? Did you expect the Sixers to be up, down going into Atlanta? What did you expect?
Yeah, I think I'm not shocked that it was a split. I think the way that it turned out to be a split was shocking, how the Hawks kind of jumped out to that huge lead in game one when the Sixers were at home. I was in the building for that game. They brought Triple H out to ring the bell. It was nuts in there. Like the crowd was electric. And then the Sixers kind of really just came out and laid an egg in that first half. They were outplayed. Doc Rivers' decisions to start out that series were really confusing to me. So the way they kind of felt like started off the series slowly, I thought was kind of concerning. But the 6 quarters since then, I think have been really promising. They clawed all the way back, obviously, and made it a close game at the end of game one, and then played pretty consistently well throughout the course of game two, minus a couple of brief dips. But otherwise, I think they made really good adjustments in game two. Doc did, especially obviously in terms of how they defended Trae Young, both with who guarded him and how they treated him off pick and rolls and things like that. And the Hawks just don't have, I think the Sixers showed that they at least have somewhat of an answer for Trae Young, guys that they could, at least put on him to minimize his production. And the Hawks have not shown the same for Joel at this point. He's 79 points through 2 games. He set his playoff career high 2 games in a row against the Hawks. So, Clint Capella is a great center, but he just, no one they have on the roster could contain Joel. As long as he can continue to get out there on that knee and play like he has, I still think the Sixers have the advantage.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So, Michael, let me ask you this then: why did it take a game for Doc Rivers to say, "Hey, wait a minute, I got this Defensive Player of the Year candidate," and we later found out the second best defender in the NBA this year?
Yeah.
Why take the game to figure out whether or not he should be on Trae Young?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. And to me, it was by halftime of that game when Danny Green was still on Trae Young, I was definitely finding myself thoroughly questioning it. It's when he first started out with it, that's one thing. It's something that he had done throughout the course of the season at times, and he explained it as wanting to keep Ben's legs healthy for potentially second half play, and B, to save fouls on him, which we did see in that game one. Ben picked up a couple of real quick cheap fouls as soon as he switched on to Trae Young, because Trae is real shifty, good at drawing those fouls. But to me, after he started with Danny on him, and you saw after what it take 3-4 possessions that it probably just wasn't going to work out, at that point I was wondering why it took so long. Doc basically said after the game just that he wanted to, hopefully continue to save fouls on Ben and to save, his legs for the second half game. But, it just snowballed on them so quickly that it, at that point, it was already a 20-point game. And as good as Ben played in the second half defensively, it wasn't enough to get them over the hump. So, I do think that Doc reacted slowly in that situation. But the key thing to me was that, he adjusted in the second half. And then obviously in game two, where he used, Ben or then Matisse Thybulle on Trae, and we barely saw Danny guard him at all. So, that's the recipe for success in my eyes moving forward for them.
Something else I was questioning with Doc Rivers was how deep this bench has been, and it was deep without production. It wasn't like, oh, look how deep the Sixers are. It was like in the first half of game two, they hadn't scored a point, and then Shake Milton opened the floodgates with about under 2 minutes left in that in that third quarter. Were you surprised to see that bench being emptied out the way it had been in these first two games against the Hawks, or did you really expect Doc Rivers to go that deep on his bench?
No, I don't think anybody did, Mark. It was one of those things where, obviously Doc did that throughout the year, rolled out the all-bench lineup pretty, on a nightly basis. And it was one of those things where I was like, all right, this makes sense. He's getting experience for his guys. But then once the postseason rolls around, he's going to cut it. And then we got to the Wizards series, and the Sixers were like, taking care of business pretty handily. And he was still rolling out the bench lineup. So then I was like, okay, he's getting these guys some playoff experience just so they're ready. But, once the next round comes around, he's going to cut it out. And then we get to game one against the Hawks. It was the same thing. They got played off the court. I think it was a 5-minute period in that game one with the all-bench lineup. They were outscored by 10 points. And Atlanta's lead went from 10 to 20. And at that point, it was, too much for the Sixers to come back from. So, Doc is definitely probably the only coach remaining in the playoffs right now that's going 11 deep. And I do think that, game one might have been a little bit of a wake-up call because he didn't play that all-bench lineup in game two. I'd be pretty surprised if he did it again. He actually talked today during shoot around to us saying that, he trusts everybody on the lineup right now, but moving forward, he's probably not going to be able to use them all on a nightly basis. And that's how it's going to be like last night or game two was Shake's turn. Korkmaz didn't really play much in that game. Moving forward, it might be a situation where Korkmaz gets minutes, things like that. So I think we'll still see all the players sprinkled in throughout the lineup, but I don't think we'll see they'll go on, all bench unit again for the rest of this series or playoffs.
I mean, as long as maybe it's Tyrese Maxey next time goes off and scores, 26 points of the next 30 points they had in the close of the third and through the middle of the fourth quarter. It was unbelievable. So where do we go from here? Now we're in Atlanta. Now the Sixers are going to be taking them on in game 3 down there in Atlanta against the Hawks. How do you see the rest of this series playing out, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough that the Hawks stole one. Obviously, they took home court advantage, but I think the Sixers had a really solid game plan in game 2 in terms of how they responded, how they defended Trae, and then how they approached the offense. You saw Joel establish himself on the low post a lot more in game 2. I thought in game 1, especially early on, he was on the perimeter way too much, kind of, doing dribble handoffs or just like space in the floor. And I thought in game 2, they made a real conscious effort to get him the ball on the post because that's where that's when their offense is at their best. It forces the defenses to react. They're either going to play him with single coverage and then he almost always has the advantage, or they're going to double. And now the Sixers have a roster constructed of, where he can kick the ball out and he has shooters and guys that can cut and finish around him. So I think that the Sixers, obviously I know the fans like to panic, and there was, justifiable panic after the way the team came out in game one. But like we were just saying earlier, I think the way they responded in those 6 quarters since then is reason for optimism. It's now basically a 3-game series. And I think, the biggest takeaway from those first 2 games was Joel's health. I mean, that was the biggest storyline heading into the series. We didn't even know, when I got to the arena for game 1, we didn't even know if he was going to play. And then, like we were saying, over the past 2 games, he had 39 points and then 40 points. He's looked like his MVP self from the regular season. So to me, I'm optimistic in terms for the Sixers moving forward. It's a 3-game series. Joel's health was the main question and concern for them heading into the series. He's seen, as long as he can continue to, play the amount and play as well as he has in this series, I think the Sixers, still have the advantage. So the Hawks, I think a lot of people in Philly, I don't know how many games they watched of the Hawks this season, especially since Nate McMillan took over after the All-Star break. They weren't on, national TV a ton, but they've been a really good team all season. I thought this series would go at least 6 games. We had to make predictions for CBS Sports. My prediction was Sixers in 6. So, I do think the Hawks are a well-coached team, especially now. They had weapons on offense all season, but they've really gotten better defensively. And, Trae Young's we're watching a young player take that next step into superstardom in his first playoffs. So they have a lot going for them. They could definitely take another game or 2 from Philly, but like I said, Joel to me is the X factor since they don't have anyone to guard him. And as long as he can, be out there and give his all, then I think the Sixers still are in good shape.
Tell me, you agree or disagree with this? I feel like this series is going to be a lot more, for the vast majority of it, when we look back on it, the series will look a lot more like both second halves of games 1 and 2, as opposed to the first half of those games 1 and 2, where it was one team just blowing the other team out of the water, more or less, especially with the way the Hawks came out with 42 first quarter points in game 1. I think the second halves of those games is more the norm than the first.
Yeah, I agree completely, which is often the case in the playoffs. It's hard to blow out a team unless you're playing the Bucks, apparently. I'm not sure what's going on in that series. But, the Hawks especially have a lot of firepower. So there's, a team that they could get down quickly like they did. I think it was 20-4 at the beginning of game 2. And then, by the end of the first quarter, it was almost a tie game because they just have guys that can score that quickly. And I think the Sixers obviously are not going to come out as poorly ever as they did in that first half of game 1. So I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched series moving forward. And like I said, I think Joel is just really going to be the guy there that makes the difference.
All right, so I want to run through a couple of things with you more generally speaking. One has to do with Joel Embiid and the MVP award. Was Joel Embiid robbed by Joker, Michael KB?
It's tough because he was the best player to me all season, and we all know the determining factor in that was games played. Jokic didn't miss a game, which really is on one end of the spectrum, and Joel was missed. I believe it was 21, which he was barely over the threshold to even qualify for award consideration and statistical consideration. So to me, I do understand where the vote, where that disparity came from. If I had a vote, I probably would have gone to Jokic because of that difference. I know, and it's tough, man. Being a Philly guy, I love Joel, love watching him play. But when you miss almost a third of the season and you're going up against the guy that played every game, and the other comparables, other than defense, obviously Joel has the major advantage. But statistically, they were both pretty close. I think it was a fair vote, as much as I would have liked to see Joel get it.
Yeah, my personal thing on that was if he's good enough to qualify, if he played enough to qualify, then he qualified. If he's the best, he should get it. That's where I'm at with that. And yes, I'm a big fat homer. After that, Ben Simmons, Defensive Player of the Year, robbed or not robbed?
That, I think, is a rob. I think the fact the game is so much more perimeter oriented today than it has been in the past. So to pick a rim protector that's can be exposed by a guard on the perimeter, as opposed to Ben, who's really can guard positions 1 through 5 at any time. All right, I gotta grab the dog.
All right, yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah. I know, Michael. You're playing defense when it comes to the dogs that apparently are just waking up from a nap. But I know the people would want to see oh my goodness. Look at that face! Look at that pup. That's a good looking puppy right there.
Yeah, he's not letting me get any work done. Apparently, there you go.
What's his name?
Kemba. Believe it or not.
Is that after Kemba Walker?
So I say it's not after him specifically, but I'd be lying if he wasn't like the reason that the name was in my head. Like I didn't name him because I love Kemba Walker that much, but I thought the name Kemba was pretty cool because obviously I knew of Kemba Walker. So I give him like half credit.
See, that's good. See, I was named. My dad likes to tell me I was not named after Marc Ivoroni of the Sixers championship team, but the name Mark, especially Mark with a C, was in his head because of Marc Ivoroni. So I get the inspiration. Same deal. Same deal. Okay, so Ben was robbed. That's cool. Last thing on just as far as Ben Simmons goes, some general stuff. I acknowledge that Ben Simmons is well worthy of being an all-star. My audience has heard me say this a million times. Well worthy of his 3-time all-star appearances, well worthy of Defensive Player of the Year, prowess being in that conversation. But I really do feel, Michael KB, I really do feel that Ben Simmons is a consistent foul shooter and a consistent jump shooter away from being an MVP, legit top 3 candidate in the NBA. Agree or disagree?
I don't know about being an MVP candidate because I think you're seeing right now Giannis, who's still not a consistent shooter or a consistent free throw shooter, who has 2 MVPs to his name.
Okay.
But with that said, I mean, especially the free throws. I mean, that's the main thing. You know, everyone, the shooting conversation's been done, you know, over and over again, and it's the consensus. Obviously, if he wants to be the best player he could be to take the Sixers to the next level, like yes, he needs to develop a jump shot. He can still be extremely effective, obviously, without one. But to me, it's the foul shooting because I think so much of that like stems from him being aggressive when he's at his best. Is when he puts his head down and gets to the rim. And I think at times when he's not hitting his free throws, like we're kind of seeing in these playoffs right now, he's not being as aggressive because he doesn't necessarily want to get fouled and go to the line. So I think if he can get that up to even just like 70%, which is not asking too much, I think he's been around like the low 60s throughout his career. If he could just get that up to 70%, I think that would open things up for him tremendously on the offensive end. We've already seen him be a little bit more willing to take, you know, I don't want to say jump shots, but like post fadeaways or hook shots or things that are, you know, we didn't necessarily see a lot from him his first couple of years in the league. So I think is some small development, I guess, in that area. But to me, it's all about the free throw shooting. I think once he gets confidence there, you know, A, he'll be more aggressive, and B, I feel like if you're a good free throw shooter, you know, when you're in that area on the court, it's a mental thing, and he'll be more willing to shoot in the flow of a game, and then, you know, maybe things will stem from there.
All right, Michael KB, Michael Kasky Below Maine. I appreciate you coming on. I do have to say this: you can follow Michael on Twitter at the real Michael KB. Is there a fake Michael KB out there?
I believe at the time that I was making the Twitter account, I wanted just Mike KB, the account, like without the real, and it was it was taken. So I threw the real on it because I had to differentiate the real from the fake, you know?
Yeah, it was somebody with crap basketball takes. You know what? They were trying to steal your stuff, my friend.
And now it's a suspended account, but you know it's so I don't know. I don't know.
You built up
a fake one.
You've built up a nice following. And while I'm referencing your Twitter, do you in fact stay hydrated?
I do, and I was just thinking to myself, I forgot to bring up a bottle of water while we were doing this interview, and I'm extraordinarily thirsty, especially you got me with my air conditioning off, got my dog on my lap, no water bottle, a lot going on. But all right. It's been great talking hoops with you, Mark. I appreciate it.
It's been awesome. I really appreciate it. Michael Kasky Below Maine, appreciate you coming on CBSSports.com.
I got to say, you've nailed the last name, especially for the first try, better than, you know, pretty much anyone I've dealt with so far. So you get, you know, some props for that.
My parents raised a cultured young man, so there you go.
I can tell, man. It's showing through the microphone.
It's paying off right now. Michael, thanks so much for joining us here on the Zatos Investments guest line.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me on.
That was a fun interview, and yes, I think most of you realize that none of those are live. I always joke, like Riley Cote is the only live guest I have. Yesterday we had Dave from the UK. He joined the show. That was live, so that happened. But yeah, most of the time it's not. 99% of the time it's not live. But let me just say, here's what happened throughout that interview, just to peel back the curtain for a second. His air conditioner started making some kind of weird noise, and it sounded like somebody was in the background with like bubble wrap, and they were just like going nuts on it, like poppity pop pop, poppity pop pop, pop 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 pop. And I try to have poise and just try to keep pushing forward. And it was impossible. It kept happening. And I go, hey, man, I'm just picking up on this. Are you hearing this as well? And it was like, oh, you can hear that? And yeah, so he went and he took care of it. And then his dog, 2 separate occasions, just started barking like, Kemba, come on, Kemba. Started, interrupting. But anyway, adorable dog. And my thanks to Michael KB, who does really, if you don't follow him on Twitter, make sure you do that. He does a great job covering the NBA and covering the 76ers. I find in the world where we are just inundated with piping hot takes that are just there to half piss you off and the other half at least invoke an emotion where you say to your friend, did you see this? And then they click on it and then you get another click. I find that Michael KB, his takes on Twitter and both in writing in terms of his articles for CBSSports.com are just very matter-of-fact. Here's the news, deal with it, that kind of thing. And I respect that and I appreciate that. And I try to do something very similar on this program. So I appreciate those people out there that are just trying to, hey, give you their opinion without trying to, like, piss you off basically at the same time. Like, Ben Simmons jump shot. Meh. That's how it sounds to me whenever I read piping hot takes that I just really would rather not read. Anyway, so my thanks to Michael KB for joining the show. Really enjoyed the conversation. Hey, let me tell you about my friends at DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Oh, if you're not betting with DraftKings, you are missing out. It is a lot of fun. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. Easy to navigate. Has plenty of instructions for new bettors. Like this, for instance. I was betting balls and strikes. Betting balls and strikes. And my buddy was like, whoa, hey, you hold the phone. You could bet balls and strikes. And I go, you damn right you could bet balls and strikes. He's like, how do I do it? I sent him the screen grab of me betting balls and strikes with Zach Wheeler, who's pounding the strike zone, by the way. And he looks at it and he goes, that looks good. And it just walks you through. Second batter of the 4th inning, pitch number 2. Baller strike, in play, hit by a pitch. Ooh, yeah, it's got that too. So you can take advantage of all that stuff at DraftKings Sportsbook. And when you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, when you do that, use promo code Farzy to get in on this great deal for basketball. Any basketball team. Pick a basketball team that's still in the playoffs, and you could bet $1. And if that team wins, you win $100 in site credits. Don't forget, DraftKings Sportsbook also offers great odds and promotions on baseball, hockey, and so much more all week long. DraftKings safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy to sign up when you turn $1 into $100 in free bets. Bet on basketball, on the basketball team if you're choosing to win. And if they do that, guess what? You win $100 on a $1 bet. That's $100 in site credits. Use promo code Farzy for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, new customers only. Restrictions apply. Wager paid out in site credits. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. How about this? You can also check out all the stuff going across the Philadelphia sports scene right now with Philadelphia Sports Nation. That's Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. 4 hours, folks. 4 hours. 4 hours till I am obnoxiously flooding the real Marc.Farzetta on Instagram account with beautiful photos of steak and Maine and the succulent steak, the delicious seafood. I might even pop an oyster or two. I don't care. It's my anniversary weekend. I'm ready to party. So I'll be there this afternoon, and I can't wait for it. Travel Channel, Cooking Channel says this place is the #1 place for steaks in America. That's right. That's how good this place is. My man Tony Cavada hooks it up down there. The tomahawk steaks, the fresh seafood, prime cuts of meat, the oysters, everything. Wine selection with Cavada Cellars wines as well. Oh, my goodness gracious. It is going to be a time. It is going to be a time at Steak and Maine. Check it out for yourself at steakandmaine.com. That's steakandmaine.com in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Whether you like to dine in a more upscale steakhouse or casual bar and patio, you can enjoy the highest quality prime cuts of meat, fresh seafood, world-class oyster bar, and freshly prepared sushi. I might just get it all. I might just get it all. I'm going to be gluttonous is what I'm telling you. So make sure you check it out. Stake in Maine at stakeandmaine.com. How about FanUp, the site where fans can bet with fans? It's like fantasy sports, but it's all right there on one site, one app. You could bet with your friends. You could create a challenge and challenge one of your friends. It's so much fun to get in on this app. The FanUp app. Download the FanUp app right now in the App Store. Get 2,000 bonus points right out of the gate when you use promo code FanUp. That's promo code FanUp. The days of playing fantasy sports alone, they're over. They're dead. Fans, you can enjoy their super fun daily and weekly contests, answer fun questions, and rise on their leaderboard. Squad up with your friends, earn points as you rise on that leaderboard. You can get great brand prizes. You can win more points. You can win cash. You can win great gift cards, $200 gift card, Nike gift card they just gave away the other day. You got to get in all the action with FanUp. It's fun. It's easy. And it's the only place to win those hot brand prizes. Any day, any week, any season, you could be the real MVP with FanUp. Download the FanUp app in the App Store. Use promo code FanUp. Get 2,000 bonus points. That's FanUp. May the best fan win. Without further ado, let's jump into all things on our social media with our social media check-in, brought to you by Stake in Maine and stakeandmaine.com. There is a lot of good times right here. Oh, snap. Oysters on an anniversary. Anniversary week. Lil Toot's going to have a sibling. Hey, maybe. I don't know. It's T-Bro. What's happening, brother? Matt's checking in. Mouth watering. Yeah. See, here's the thing. I don't know if you're like me or not, but if I'm getting steak, if I'm out and I'm getting steak, I'm getting at least 20 plus ounces of something. Like, that's the way that works. I can't go with a 16-ounce steak. I can't go with like an 8. When I see 8-ounce steak and they're like, someone's telling me about, how like the waiter comes up to the table and they're like, we have this delicious, juicy filet mignon, whatever. And I'm like, that sounds delicious. And they're like, it's 8 ounces. And I'm like, that's 8 ounces. What am I here for, a snack? What am I like 4 years old? Anyway, I have to have at least 20 ounces. Like that's my rule. And I love a nice red wine paired with a nice steak. That's one of my favorite things in the world. Like, I love smoking cigars and drinking whiskey or bourbon, like especially a nice bourbon. The combination of those two things are just like, it was like God telling us he loves us. I will give you cigars and bourbon. Thank you, God. And then it's like, I will give you steak and red wine. And it's like, thank you, God. That's how you know God loves it. What is it? Benjamin Franklin. Was it Benjamin Franklin that said beer is our way of knowing God loves us? It's something similar with those two things for me. But yeah, I'm going to be crushing steak today. I might even get like 4 steaks. My goal is to come back here on Monday and be fat as hell for you, basically. And I'm working on that already. Let's check in with our the usual suspect. Now, this is interesting. I saw April. Hey! I saw April post this. While she was at Temple, she wrote a paper on fans booing. I glanced over here at one point, because I'm going to let you hear this in a second. It's Joe Girardi and Joel Embiid both talking about the fan base in Philadelphia and what it means to them when they get booed. All right. So we're going to get to that in a second. But April, I would love, if you find that paper that you wrote at Temple University, what's up? She says, fun fact, I wrote a paper about fans being superstitious when I went to Temple. I'd love to read that. If you find that paper, April, it somehow magically hit me up. Get me that paper. Send it to me on IG or whatever. So we'll have. I'd love to read that. Benny's checking in, just saying. Thought I was going to have to do the pod today, but don't worry, I made it. Benny, look, all the people that download the pod, I really appreciate that. But I also appreciate interaction. And if you're up at 6 a.m. and you're partying with me, all right, man, let's party. April says, good morning. Good morning to you, April. Dan says, top of the morning, y'all. UK Phillies inspired that greeting. Top of the morning to you. So welcome in the UK people. Mally's checking in. Marc saying, hey, what's happening? What's going on there, Mally? Zach Wheeler is the best pitcher I've seen since Halladay. I have the utmost confidence in him. Dan, that's kind of where I'm at right now as well. But still looking at Mike Casey. Good morning to you as well. Jeff Ho checking in, saying, walk off city. What's popping? Marc, I thought that was you. I wired $46,000. My kid can't go to college. Mac, I apologize. And some of like people that I know personally hit me up to let me know, hey man, is this you? And I go, nope. Please report. And then I feel bad because obviously those people have, they I talk to them regularly. I see them in person, and I feel bad. I feel bad for the people that actually think that that's how we would do a contest. Well, obviously, we would not. So just be heads up for the fake accounts that are out there right now. April, you're full of it today. I love this. April says, as your friendly neighborhood banker, April's a banker. We're all learning. No legit company / person will ever ask for your banking or personal information through a direct message on social media. Okay, back to your regular debauchery. April, debauchery is just lovely. I love that word. April, if we didn't know each other at Temple and we graduated, a year apart, it's just a damn sin is what it is. Other people checking in as well. Luigi's back. What's happening, Luigi? Nice to see you back here. James Tyler checking in. Under. Now, Dan set the line here. Ben Simmons, over under 3.5 shot attempts tonight. I'm going to go crazy and say that Ben, after a bad offensive output, usually has a good offensive output in terms of numbers, points in the game. I'm going to go over that number tonight. I'm going to be maybe I'll even check out what Ben's over under is in terms of shots attempted today. Going into tonight's game, and I might throw some money at that as well. Thanks to everybody that checks in on social media. Always appreciated it. Much, much appreciated. 8 ounces for Sealski. He gets 8 ounces. Matt, I see what you're doing there. Thanks to everyone that checked in on social media there. Brought to you by Steak and Made at steakandmade.com. Now time for our morning rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. I got to get to this first. The Bucks, oh my goodness, the Bucks-Nets game last night. If you didn't see that game, it was insane. It was the worst. Kevin Durant put up 30 points, which sounds cool, but he had his worst shooting night of this postseason. Worst shooting game of this postseason. Shot under 40% from the field. Shot 39.3% from the field, and just looked off. He started to get it going late in that game, and he really helped keep the Nets in it. But man, Kyrie went cold at one point. KD went cold at one point. Joe Harris went ice cold at one point. It was a well-defended game. They didn't play that game as what the 86-83 score would indicate. They didn't play that game as the top and then second best scoring teams in the NBA this season. And they didn't certainly play it as if they were the 21st and 22nd rated defenses going into the season or going into the postseason. They played that game tremendously well from the defensive standpoint. And Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton were everything that the Bucks needed in that game. They combined for 68 of the Bucks' 86 points. That's how good they were last night. That's exactly what the Bucks needed to get back into that series. It's now 2-1. The other part of that is that the Nets have been here before. If you remember, they won their first 2 games against the Celtics, lost their first game in Boston, and then they won the next 2 games to wrap up the series. But it was a wild game last night. Just in terms of the shooting, it was just not on point at all in that game, especially from the Nets side of things. In case you didn't see it, Drew Holiday drove the lane with about 11 seconds to go. He hit what would be the game-winning layup. That's what put the Nets over the Bucks over the edge. And then a really weird end of the game. It didn't end with the ball in Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving's hands. That's all I know. I was watching, and I was like, oh, why is that guy doing that? He shouldn't be. He's not that. He's not Kyrie. He's not KD. The way the ball bounced, the play kind of almost had to happen. I think the Nets had a timeout they could have burned, but they didn't, or burned. They could have used responsibly, but they did not. So it was just an odd game last night. So that was the Nets, the Bucks game. They're back at it. I believe it's tomorrow night in Milwaukee. Algonquin for the good land. I also want to tell you, I mentioned the Jazz and Nuggets game from last night was just a wild game. Donovan Mitchell, I almost had a really bad beat, and I was going to save this for you in our what do you call it? Our big bet segment. But I almost had a really bad beat last night because I think Donovan Mitchell, he had 8 points in the first 2 minutes. He hit 2 threes, hit a jumper. I believe he had 10 points in the first 5 minutes of the game. He was just crazy. 27 first half points. But somewhere in that first 27 points, I believe it was at like the 20-point marker. he crossed over to take a step towards the lane, and it looked like he rolled his ankle again. You saw him wincing in pain. And I went, here we go, bad beat. I'm a mush. And it turns out it wasn't the case at all. He still got over 30.5 points, which was his line going into last night. So I hit on that bet. But it was a little bit of a scary thing. A little bit of a scary thing for me. I had some money on that game, say the least. Had some money on his over-under, say that. So it was a wild game for them as well. I wanted to get to this in our morning rush today. I talked about it enough. I want to give it to you right now. This is Joel Embiid after game 2, talking about now going on the road in this series with Atlanta. And listen to the way he talks about the hometown fans in Philadelphia.
The fans, that support us, they're going to boo you, but it's to make you play better. So I like that energy. But also playing on the road is the same for me, honestly, because as I play on the road, you got the opposite fans, talking trash, booing, I feed off of it, and I like to shut them up. So, for me, there's no difference. Obviously, I have a lot of love for the Philly fans, and playing at home is, there's nothing like it. The way they get loud, the love that they show, and one thing that people have no idea and that I'm proud of is the knowledge of the game. They know everything that's going on, whether it's who's on the team, who the teams you sign, and all that stuff. They just have great awareness. That just shows you. That's what I want. I want to play in a city where fans are into it. They care about you. They care. They want to win, and that's Philly for you.
That is Philadelphia for you. And I thought that, and we played it for you the other day, that was a beautiful homage to the Philadelphia fan base. So the Phillies get the win yesterday. We got another walk-off win against the Braves. As I mentioned earlier, they're 3.5 games out of first place now. They're in second place in the NL East. And I'm listening to Joe Girardi after the game because the fans that it's been small crowds, and it's been well reported, small crowds at Citizens Bank Park since they opened to full capacity. They had one great crowd, like standing room only, and then after that, it's gone by the wayside again. But Joe Girardi talked about the fans that were there apparently were booing a little bit, and Joe Girardi kind of had a message for his team when it came to Philadelphia fans booing. Listen to this.
The one thing I would tell my players, look, the fans in Philly are extremely passionate, and they want us to win. They're not booing really who you are. There's not saying that they don't like you as a person. They just want to win. And it's their way of showing frustration when we don't win. So in a way, I mean, they're really pulling for us, but when we don't perform, they let us know. And I get it. I mean, we all want to win here too. I booed myself before, so I think when you play in these passionate East Coast towns, you have to be ready for that and just say, hey, you know what? They really do want us to win and they care about us. But when we don't play well, they get upset, just like we do in the clubhouse.
That's exactly how everybody should take it every single time. And when we got into this the other day, I said something very similar. When fans boo, you should just take it if you're a player as, yep, I need to get my you-know-what together. Now, I've been lucky enough to like played in the charity softball games at Citizens Bank Park or football games at the Link or whatever it might be, and been on the ice of the Wells Fargo Center and all that, and the court. And I always look up and just imagine the place packed with people. And I imagine those people hate me. I imagine that I just did something. What if I was a player who just did something in a game that was bad and all these people are booing? That's got to be pretty daunting. And it's not as simple as, oh, well, they're just telling me to get my you-know-what together, But for a player like Joe Girardi, who played as long as he did, played in New York, so he definitely knows, as you mentioned, East Coast cities, how a bunch of ball breakers we can be. I think him delivering that message to a team hopefully helps them handle any type of adversity they have to try to deal with when it comes to fans trying to motivate them a little bit. But that's the right way. That's the right way to look at it. Motivate a little bit. Let you know that we want nothing and it will accept nothing but your best. I think that's a perfect way to put it. Dan Schwartz, thanks, brother. Yeah, Kevin Durant did have the last shot. My apologies. It was the possession before that. Bruce Brown with 6 seconds left That was the driving layup. That was the guy that I was like, wait, why do you have the basketball? What's happening here? And then after they got the ball back, Chris Middleton, he hit 2 free throws. They went up 3 points, 86-83. Then they did give the ball to Kevin Durant, who missed a 3, who was like triple covered at the time. So, yeah, Kevin Durant did have the final shot. Before that, for a chance to go up a point, Bruce Brown missed that layup. And I was like, why are you touching the ball? Not that I want the Nets to lose. I want that series to go 7 games. But it's not going to happen. But yeah, that's the way it played out. So thank you, Dan. See, the group chat's good for everything. How about that? Thank you, Dan Schwartz. Much appreciated. All right, let's get to our big bets segment brought to you by the good people of DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Dan, you weren't in the stands for me when I played for the Harlem Globetrotters, were you? Yeah, that's right. In case you didn't know that, people, I played for the Harlem Globetrotters for 1 game. They needed a media member, and that's what I was. That's what I did. So I mentioned to you yesterday, here's my little tip. Zach Wheeler is just pounding the strike zone right now. I have been betting balls and strikes with Zach Wheeler on the mound because he has just been so aggressive. And usually how I'll do it is I'll look at the lineup, right? And I'll see who's going to face in the next inning. And when they go into the in-between innings, the middle of the innings, I'll look at the chart and see who they have, what pitches they have available, who that batter will be, because how it's laid out is on DraftKings, they'll have pitch 1, or they'll have a Braves batter, second batter of the inning, second pitch. And then you could bet strike, you could bet ball, you could bet in play. Sometimes you could bet hit by a pitch, right? You can see all that stuff on DraftKings, and you can bet balls and strikes. So with Zach Wheeler just pounding the strike zone, every once in a while you'll get some plus 110 odds or whatever like that, and I'll just go, or I'm on the money line, and I'll just go, yep, take that, boom, and then I'll, whatever, throw a couple of bucks at it, and you get a nice little return on your investment for that. So that's my little tip. Pick up a couple of bucks. The way I look at it is if you find $5 on the ground, do you pick it up? You damn right you do. If you can have an opportunity to win a couple of bucks on DraftKings betting balls and strikes, why not pick up the $5 off the floor, $10, $20 off the ground, right? Come on, what are we, kings over here? Anyway, so that's what I like to do there. I did bet, as I mentioned, Donovan Mitchell's over-under on points, which was a 30.5. I took the over because he's been on fire. That was pretty much in hand a quarter and a half into the ball game. But when I did see him slip, that's where I had the moment that a lot of us bettors have, which is yee. Okay, it's fine. So that was great. I really enjoyed that. I did take the Sixers last night. I just jumped on. I saw it was at -1. I took the Sixers at -1 going into Atlanta for this game tonight. I know some people might be scared. It's kind of a pick 'em. So if I'm going to be rooting for the Sixers, why not throw a couple of bucks on them at the same time? I will keep a close eye to see what develops. I will keep a close eye on Ben Simmons and what the over-under is for him, because I always feel like Ben Simmons, after he has a bad game scoring-wise, he normally responds. Sixers right now are at -1.5. So the line moved again. Sixers at -1.5 going into tonight's game. Ben Simmons' point total for tonight is 13.5. I actually like Ben in the over for that tonight. So if you want to get on that action, make sure you do that with DraftKings Sportsbook. So there you go. Hey, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Had so much fun with you guys this week. My thanks to Michael KB for jumping on the show today. Hope to hear from him again soon. My thanks to Jim Hyden, who produced the program. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the 76ers. And for anybody that gets into the Euro at all over there, those football fans, those soccer fans, hope you guys enjoy all that getting underway as well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great rest of your great rest of your day and a great weekend. My name's Marc Farzetta here at the Steven Singer Studios. Take it easy, everybody. Talk to you on Monday.